Hi, it's Miss House. In this video, I'm going to talk about graphing lines. Now, there are several ways to graph lines. One is to find any 2 points that work in the equation. Okay, and that's pretty common. So you've got an equation, you find 2 points that balance out the equation, plot those 2 points, and you got your line. Or if it's solved for y and it's y equals mx plus b, you can use the slope and the b value, which is the y-intercept, to draw the graph. Or if it's in standard form, it's really easy to use the intercepts. And the intercepts are the x-intercept and the y-intercept. The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So let's do some examples. I'm going to graph the line with a given point and slope. Okay, so we don't have the equation, but they tell us that the line goes to the point negative 2, 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go negative 2 on the x and positive 2 on the y. I'm going to plot my point. And remember, my slope is rise over run. So that's really easy. I'm going to rise 2 and run 3, and I draw another point. And so now I can sketch in my line, put it through those 2 points. And when you draw a line, be sure you always put arrows on the tips, because a line continues infinitely in both directions, right? It would be a line segment or a ray if it doesn't go in both directions. If it ends on both ends and there's no arrow, it's a line segment. And if it ends on one, has a permanent end, no arrow on one end, but an arrow on the other, it's called a ray. So we want to make sure we have arrows on both ends. Example 13. Our y-intercept is 0, negative 2. And they gave us a slope of negative 1 over 1. Now, that could just be written as negative 1, but they want you to realize it's got a denominator also. So this is going to be going downhill, remember, because it's negative. So I'm going to go down 1, and to the right 1, there's my second point. And I just connect the points and put my arrows on both ends. Now, in my math lab, it may not draw in the arrow, so you don't worry about that. But whenever you're drawing them on paper, if you don't extend them all the way to the edge of the picture, then you need to put those arrows. Here we have a line going through negative 1, negative 6. So negative 1, negative 6, that's to the left 1, down 6, with a slope of 4 over 1. So I'm going to go up 4, just count up 4 and count over 1. And then I can connect my dots or my points with a straight line and put arrows on both ends. Here we have a slope of 0. Now remember what that means. If the slope is 0, it's a horizontal line. So all we do is we plot our point at 4 to the right on the x and down 7 in the y direction, and we draw a horizontal line. If the slope is 0, you have a horizontal line. So you don't have to find a second point. You can see there's a, you could say, well, 5, 0, 6, 0, 7, 0. I'm sorry, 5, negative 7, 6, negative 7, 7, negative 7. When you have a 0 slope, all of those y's are going to be the same like that because it's a horizontal line. Now this time it says undefined slope. So we have to remember undefined equals a vertical line. So all we do is we plot our point to the right 2, down 4, and we draw a vertical line through those points. And we could find other points now. Notice we've got 2, negative 4, and let's see, 2, 1, 2, negative 5, 2, 7. I could keep going. Notice that the x is going to be the same for every vertical line. So now they're asking us to find the intercept. So let's talk for just a minute about intercepts. So as I said in the introduction to the graphing, if you've got an x-intercept, that's where it crosses the x-axis, okay? And so it's going to be a point, something on x, but y is going to be 0. For the y-intercept, that's where it crosses the y-axis. That's going to be at 0y. So in order to find the intercepts, especially if it's in ax plus by equals c format, I say you just make this little table. You're going to do x, y, where y is 0 and where x is 0. So in other words, we're going to substitute 0 for the opposite variable. So to find the y-intercept, you'll substitute the 0 for the x, and to find the x-intercept, you'll substitute the 0 in the y. So if I have 4x plus 3y equals 12, I'm going to make this chart. You don't have to do it in a table form, but it's always nice to do it that way. I just have to figure out if y is 0. So if this is 0, look, if y is 0, there's no value there. I would just have to divide by 4. Okay, and that would give me x equals 3. All right, now let's do that more formally. If I wanted to do, I would do 4x plus 3 times 0 equals 12. That's going to be a 0. Over here, I just blackened it out. It's the same thing. One-step equation. Since it's multiply, we have to divide. X would be equal to 3. So there's my point, 3, 0. And the x-intercept is 3. They don't want an ordered pair, but if they ask for the ordered pair, you would write 3, 0. Okay? For the y-intercept, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put in, for the x, 4 times 0. So in this case, if I was doing it this quick way, plus 3 times y equals 12. That'll give me 3y equals 12. I divide by 3 on both sides, and y is equal to 4. So my y-intercept is 4, or the ordered pair, 0, 4. Example 18, find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of this graph. So I'm going to do the x-intercept first. So 7x minus 5 times 0, which is going to go away because it has a value of 0. So I have 7x equals 5. I divide by 7. X is 5/7. And yes, of course, it can be a fraction. So just be careful and don't be freaked out if that happens. For the y-intercept, it's 7 times 0 minus 5 times y. So this time, that's a 0. Divide by negative 5. Now be careful. Here I have a positive divided by a negative. So that is a negative 1. And remember, as ordered pairs, now this they just want the single value, but if they ask for ordered pair, 5/7, 0, 0, negative 1. Number 19, negative x plus 2 times 0 is negative 5. So that's 0. Negative x is negative 5. Divide by negative 1. X is 5. For the y-intercept, negative 0 plus 2y equals negative 5. That's gone. Divide by 2. Y is negative 5 halves. And you could write the ordered pairs like we did above for the others, if they ask for it. Now this one's a little unique because watch what happens. 8x minus 9, I'm doing the x-intercept, so let the opposite one of the y be 0, equals 0. 8x equals 0. Now I'm going to divide by 8. X is equal to 0. When I do the y-intercept, 8 times 0 minus 9y equals 0. That's 0, so it's gone. Divide by negative 9. Y is equal. Oh, so this line goes through the origin. If we were to graph it, it's going to go through the origin or the point 0, 0. It has a name. It's called the origin. Now, the reason it does that is because there's a 0 on the right-hand side when it's in standard form, and that's going to always go through the origin if that's the case. Number 21, find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of this graph of this equation. Now, here we got to be careful. Look, 4x, and look, the 3y's on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and subtract a 3y from both sides, and to get it into some kind of format I'm used to using, okay? So 4x minus 3y is negative 7. So if I let the y be 0, 4x minus 3 times 0 is negative 7. 4x is negative 7. Divide by 4. X is negative 7 fourths. Negative 7 fourths. And if I put a 0 in for the x, 4 times 0 minus 3y equals negative 7. That's 0. Divide both sides by negative 3 this time. Y is 7/3. This time it's positive. Now, you don't have to move the 3y over. You can solve the equation with that on the right-hand side, but it's nice to have your lines in one of two forms. Y equals mx plus b, that's where y is all by itself on one side, or ax plus by equals c, where a and b are on the same side, and a number is on the other side. And we'll talk more about these as we get more into the equations of the lines. So now I'm going to graph 2x plus 3y equals negative 6. I could find the slope of the line and any point of the line, or I could find 2 points. And look, this is in standard form. So I'm going to make my little table and get my 2 intercepts. Now, they don't specifically say I have to use the intercepts, but when it's in standard form, that's going to be the easiest. So look, I'm going to go the shortcut route. Look, I'm letting y be 0. I've got 2x is negative 6. Divide by 2. X is negative 3. Okay. Now, remember what I was doing there. I was doing 2x plus 3 times 0. Therefore, this value is 0, and I can just eliminate it. Now, if I want to do the y-intercept, it would be 2 times 0 plus 3y is negative 6, or this is 0. Divide both sides by 3 this time. Y is negative 2. Now, I could get other points as well as long as they work in the equation, but the intercepts are the easiest when it's in standard form. So negative 3, 0, that's on the x-axis, and 0, negative 2 on the y-axis. Now I have a line, and I can sketch that line right through those 2 points. And if I'm drawing on paper, I'll put arrows on both ends. Graph the linear equation 3x plus y equals 6. Well, this is also in the standard form. So again, my easiest thing to do here is to let y be 0 and let x be 0. So if y is 0, x is going to have to be 2, because 3 times 2 is 6. And if x is 0, y is going to have to be 6. And of course, I can do it the formal way. 3x plus 0 is 6. 3x equals 6, divide by 3, x is 2. And so forth, so on for the y-intercept. So I go over to 2, 0, and up to 0, 6, and I draw my line in, and I draw arrows on both ends of the line if I'm drawing on paper. Graph the linear equation y equals 2x minus 7. Now notice in this case, it's in y equals mx plus b format. So my slope is 2. It's always the coefficient of x when solved for y. And my b value is negative 7. And this is the y-intercept. Because look, if I take y equals 2x minus 7, and I let x be 0 here, look, y is negative 7. So that y-intercept is hanging out at the end when it's solved for y. So I'm going to go to negative 7 on my y-axis, and I'm going to do 2 over 1. Remember, we've got rise over run. So I'm going to go up 2. So from 7 to 5 would be up 2, because you go through 6 first and then 5. And then that's going to, oh, I'm sorry, and then to the right 1. I got to do that. Let me do that again. I have to go up 2, so from 7, this is 7 to 5, and then I have to go to the right 1. Now be careful, the scale here is it's 2 little spaces, but that's just 1 space to the right, because there's your 1 right there. And then you connect the dots with your arrows. Here, same format, y is equal to mx plus b. My slope is 1/2, so that's rise 1, and then run, or to the right 2. So I'm going to start at the y-intercept of negative 1. I'm going to rise 1 and go to the right 2. There's my second point. Connect, and if on paper, draw arrows on both ends. Number 26, y equals negative 4x. And notice there's no b value. Well, that means b is 0. So I'm going to start here at 0. Okay? And I have a slope of negative 4 over 1. Now, rise going up would be positive, but rise when negative means I'm going down. So I'm going to go down 4 to the right 1, and now I can draw my line. So down 4 to the right 1. Now here we have to recognize something that we know. When there is x only in the equation, the line can only intercept the x-axis. That line is not going to be allowed to touch y ever. That means it has to be a vertical line through x equals 6. You could also think of this as, I'm going to make a chart, and it tells me that x has to be 6 all the time. But it doesn't tell me anything about y, so I'll just pick 0 and 1. So I go 6, 0, 6, 1, and notice those line up for a vertical line. And it's got undefined slope, okay, because it's a vertical line. So when you see x only in the equation, it can only touch x. If it's slanted at all, it would touch y, so it can't be slanted, okay? It has to be vertical when it's x only. Here's a y only. Well, that's going to be your horizontal line. And so you could make a little chart, and let y be 2 and pick a couple of values for x. I just picked 1 and 3. I go over 1, up 2, over 3, up 2, and notice it's going to be a horizontal line. Y only intercepts the y-axis only, which means it has to be a horizontal line. And in this case, it's a horizontal line through 2. Now, this one's a little tricky. You have to be careful. Before you say, well, it's y only, it's horizontal at -4, you have to move that 4 over by adding 4 to both sides. Now I can say, oh, y only is a horizontal line through y equals 4. So I can go over to 4 and I can draw my horizontal line. The most common mistake there would be to put it through -4. But remember, it has to be solved for y in order for you to graph it. Here we have a similar thing. We need to add 6 to both sides. X equals 6. This time it's x only. That's your vertical line. So I go over to 6 and I draw a vertical line.